Hello, hello, hello. And after a full week reset, we are back. Me and Lauren are back with back-to-back. That I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. Preview shows. Now, that is because last weekend the FA Trophy took centre stage. Obviously, you would have hopefully have watched and listened to our wonderful Q&A special that we did last week. And the one thing I will say to start this podcast is real teams are now out of the FA Trophy. The biggest teams in this competition are now out of the FA Trophy. That's what I'm going to say. But moving on, we are here to preview match day 22 in the National League. And first of all, Lauren, how has your week been? How are you feeling? And are you excited to get back into league action after what feels like forever with like 3 back-to-back cup competitions in the space of the last league games?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm glad to be back. You might be able to tell, but I'm in a different location today. And you're probably going to get a different location again next week. I'm officially back from uni, which is nice, but it does mean that my days are now even more busy. I'm now working full time and I'm as busy as ever. So it's good, but I'm busy. But I'm very excited to be back and covering the National League, as always.
Nice. And I am excited to be back with you as well. So without further ado, let's get straight into it and let's look ahead to the games this weekend. And I'll do what I do all the time. I will run from top to bottom and then we'll pick out some of our favourites. In fact, actually, before we do that, I think it is important to mention that there was a Tuesday, Wednesday National League Cup round of fixtures this week, and for as much as I was kind of hoping that Oldham would throw it, and we could get out of that competition and then just put all our eggs in the National League basket, we are unfortunately one step closer to qualifying from our group because we beat Blackburn under 23s in the week, but we also did it with 9 academy players playing it in the game. So we didn't have a full strength side out ourselves, and I think that's what the sort of competition's for. But yeah, it's kind of an unwelcome distraction to me, in my opinion, at this point of the season. But I just thought it's important to mention that is still going ahead, and obviously Oldham are through. And yeah, but with that out the way now, let's look ahead to Saturday's fixtures, shall we?
Yeah, I mean, there were also a couple of National League normal games in the week, just a couple. Only 4 fixtures, nothing major. But there was some National League this week as well, which was nice. Nice to get a little bit back to normal.
I think that probably the biggest fixture in terms of entertainment from the National League midweek was probably Alty 3, Wealdstone 3, I would say, in terms of, for the neutral, obviously. Alex Reid continuing his fine form for the Stones. Obviously, we'll talk about it more, but we play Wealdstone on Saturday at home. And because Alex Reid is on loan from Oldham Athletic, unfortunately, he won't be able to play on Saturday, so that is already advantage Oldham, I would say, for that particular bout. But yeah, we'll get onto that in a little bit. But let me do the rundown, and then we can pick out the key fixtures. So, we've got Aldershot versus Halifax, Altrincham versus Sutton, Barnet versus Ebbsfleet, Dagenham and Redbridge versus Rochdale, Fylde versus Eastleigh, Gateshead versus Woking, Maidenhead versus Solihull Moors, Oldham versus Wealdstone, as I just previously mentioned, Southend versus Hartlepool, Tamworth versus York City, Yeovil versus Braintree, and Forest Green Rovers versus Boston United in the half-5 TV coverage game. So straight off the bat for me, I'm looking at Fylde Eastleigh in terms of, we are talking about Fylde being in and around a scrap at the minute. Obviously, they are hovering just above the relegation zone on 21 points. But Eastleigh have kind of completely fell apart this season from such a positive start. They are only on 28 points themselves, but they have drawn 4 of the last 6, Lauren, and have a loss and a win sandwiched in between that run as well. Obviously, the win is the most recent result, so maybe they're starting to come out the back end of the form. But I think for me, this is a very, very winnable game for Fylde to hopefully push themselves even further clear of that drop zone.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think that Fylde are bad enough to be in the relegation zone at the moment. I think, especially they won against one of their, well, I would say relegation rivals, but Ebbsfleet we've kind of already talked about being a little bit gone at this point. But I think that this is a winnable game. We've talked a lot about how Eastleigh are so unpredictable at the moment, and I wouldn't be surprised if we do get a couple of points here, Fylde. It's an interesting game, and Fylde will definitely want to win it if they want to stay out of that relegation battle. But I think there could be points there. I'm not saying there will be, but it could
you can
be.
say Eastleigh's form has been a bit unpredictable, but in the last 6 games, he's drawn 4 of them. So if I was a betting man, I would put the draw on this weekend for sure.
If there was a draw, do you think that would be a good result for Fylde?
You know what? I think I am with you in terms of I think the teams below Fylde at the minute are probably weaker than Fylde anyway. So I think Fylde will survive come the end of the season anyway, just because the rest of the teams are worse off than below, not necessarily because Fylde have done anything miraculous to pull themselves away. So I think with that being said, I think they would probably take a point, but I don't think they should be viewing it like that because, like we just said, Eastleigh is so inconsistent and on such poor form themselves, apart from the win last week. Then they've got to look and think about that as potential 3 points, and obviously if they can get the 3 points, that could move them as high as 17th. So yeah, and obviously that would pull them. That would pull them 4 points clear of the relegation zone. Obviously, depending on other results. So yeah, I would agree. They probably would take the point, but I think every team at this point in the season before Christmas should be trying to get as many maximum points as they can do.
Yeah.
But next up on my list as well, we have Altrincham versus Sutton. Now, this one is a really interesting one to me because it is 2 teams that are just separated by a point in the league table. Alty are in 8th, Sutton are in 7th in that final sort of playoff space. But it's 2 teams that have kind of, it's safe to say, Lauren, isn't it? Kind of turn around the ship and really sort of got onto good form in the last maybe 6-7 weeks. Especially Alty, we spoke early in the season loads and loads about the miss of Priscon Clark and them not really replacing and sort of nobody really stepping up. But in that period, Regan Linney has really stepped up for Alty, probably proving that he deserves a shot at EFL football maybe later in his career or whatever. Or if that can be with Alty, then perfect. But I think both of these teams have stepped it up really, really well, and obviously are battling for that last playoff place. So I think that's a really interesting one for me. What do you think about that game?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so many teams we've talked about again. It's such a battle at the top at the moment, like not even just for automatics, but for those places in the playoffs. I mean, all the way down to 11th are literally 1 point away from the playoffs, right? It's so tight, and it's such an important game, whoever gets the points in that. Because obviously if Alty get it, they jump above Sutton. If Sutton get it, they extend their lead. I think it's really interesting that Alty are this high at this point. And I mean, I've said it multiple times that like I thought that the League Two teams wouldn't do that brilliant this season. I mean, they're proving me wrong. So obviously, I know nothing about football. But I for where they are in the season, I think they'll be happy with both of them where they are. But I do think this is a big game in terms of trying to secure themselves a place in those playoffs, and they're the type of games that you need to be winning when it's your closest rivals in terms of the table. I think it'll be a good game. I think that there'll be a lot of tension on that game.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And something else that's sticking out to me this weekend as well is how the sort of the top three in Forest Green, Barnet, and York all have potential, what we would call potential banana skin fixtures to try and avoid. They've all got teams that on paper they should be pumping, comfortably beating, but also these teams are fighting for every single point and scrapping for their lives. So I find that a really interesting dynamic, and you could say the same with Wealdstone coming to Oldham as well. Obviously I know the Stones are going to be difficult because they're on really good form themselves and starting to kind of pull themselves away from the danger or the where they look to be sort of maybe 3-4 weeks ago. But yeah, I mean, it's Barnet versus Ebbsfleet, and we can say what we say every week about Ebbsfleet. But the one thing you will say is they have just sacked the manager after 90 days, very, very short. A stint at the club, obviously, they took the gamble. It's not paid off, and they've sacked the manager now. So obviously they'll have an interim for the game on Saturday. Are we going to see? Do you think there's any way on God's green possible earth? We talk about it all the time, Lauren. A new interim manager bounce come and disrupt the waves, and maybe form an upset in this game here against Barnet. What are your thoughts?
Well, we have seen it with the most recent with the most recent managers. We have seen sort of new manager bounces on their first game, and we've talked about it a lot because there have been quite a few replacements as of recent. Do I think that they could get a win some point soon with the new manager? Yes. Do I think that would be enough to get them out of the relegation? No, unfortunately.
That's fair. That's fair enough.
And again, that might seem really cruel, and I feel like I'm just painting a new manager with the big red X already. But I just think that it's so much to turn around now. You've got minus 31 goal difference. You're as leaky as, I don't know.
Go on, finish the fun. I know you can find something.
No, I actually can't. I'm trying. I'm trying. It's one of those days. I've actually bottled it.
She's bottled it, just like Stockport midweek. No, I'm sorry. That's not got anything to do with the Ashley League. That's not very fair. That's not very fair. I'm sorry.
It's unnecessary, isn't it? Come for my team, whatever.
I'd just like to make it clear that Ebbsfleet don't have a new manager in place yet. They only sacked their manager yesterday, so it will be an interim charge. So whether they have an interim bounce, I think, is the question. But yeah, look, it's 3 games for the top 3. I expect them to all navigate and come out the end of. But I do think banana skins are a real thing. You normally see them more in in cup competitions, granted, but you never know. I mean, maybe I'm just saying that because I support the team directly behind the top 3 currently. I'm hoping that a few of them slip up and we can take advantage. Maybe that's what it is, but who knows?
If I was going to stick my neck out on the line, and if I was going to say any of the banana skin games, if any of them do slip, I would say maybe the Tamworth York game, only because I do back Tamworth to get results.
Yeah.
In games.
The thing is, your sort of faith isn't misplaced because they've took to this division like a duck to water, really, and they're not comfortable at the minute, but they're above that dreaded dotted line, and they've picked up wins, probably where people didn't expect them to pick up wins. And we want to talk about banana skins and giant killings and whatever else. They produced one of their own this season already in the FA Cup against Huddersfield, and so they're not an easy proposition to play against. So yeah, I think York have to stay guarded, of course. But shall we can we just touch upon the other, like obviously the Oldham game very quickly, because this has got quite a little bit of a subplot developing in it. We were just talking off camera. So you lovely viewers and listeners would have heard a few weeks ago me and Lauren have a discussion about a certain Mr. Alex Reid, because he has represented both Oldham Athletic and Stockport County, so we are averse to speak about him because we've both seen him play for our clubs. He fell out of favour at Oldham, fell out of favour with Mickey Mellon, and got a loan move to Wealdstone, and has decided to turn himself into prime Brazilian Ronaldo and scoring every single week, scoring hat-tricks, scoring braces. Like, fair play to the lad. He's obviously got the fire in his belly and, got something to prove. But it is Oldham versus Wealdstone this weekend, and because he is only a loan player, the rules still state that Alex Reid is an Oldham player, so he's ineligible to play for Wealdstone at the weekend. Now, Lauren, how big of a miss do you think this will be for the Stones, considering how much of an impact he has come in and had in that team, and got some really vital goals in the run and kind of steered them clear of that drop zone for the time being?
Yeah, I mean, it always seems like when he's in the team, whether he's scoring or not, Wealdstone have a sort of air about them. There's just some sort of confidence that they get with him on the pitch. Obviously, with him off the pitch, I think that they will miss that. I think they'll miss the character, but I don't know whether the confidence that him being in the team has instilled will mean that they sort of go into that with. I mean, they've drawn the last two, right, Wealdstone. But maybe the confidence that they've gone into it will help them guide through the game. But I think it will be a big miss, right? Like on Tuesday, Reedy scored twice.
Mm-hmm.
Like 2 of their 3 goals were Reedy. And I think that I do think he'll be a big miss. I think he's a massive part of their team at the moment. I'm not saying they're a one-man team, no chance, but I think they'll miss his figure on the pitch. It's whether the boost that he's given to the team is enough to keep them going, even when he's not on the pitch.
I always find situations like this very interesting because I guess it must play on a professional footballer's mind, because on Saturday, right, who is he batting for in the stands? You know what I mean? Because granted, I know he's fallen out. Well, we presume he's fallen out with Mickey Mellon, and that's what led to his demise at Oldham. But he's still an Oldham player. He's still on our books. It's only a loan. So, like, if you were in his shoes, well, how would you be feeling about this? Obviously, it's your parent club versus your own club. Like, what do you think the sort of mentality shift is in that sort of scenario?
I know it's a hard one because I remember an exact sort of. Well, we had that with the Carlisle Stockport game. With like at Wembley, and that was a nightmare. With Ben Barclay, and people were not happy at all when he said that it couldn't have happened to a better team when Carlisle beat Stockport. But that might be because he let his opinion be known publicly.
Yeah.
But I think it's a hard one. I think it's something that, regardless of which way you sway, you should probably not tell anyone, because you're going to upset everyone regardless.
I think in Reedy's case as well, it must be really strange because of Wealdstone's setup. I don't know whether you're aware of this, Lauren, but he trains with us through the week, and then travels down to Wealdstone at the weekend to play the games, because Wealdstone don't train full time, as I'm aware. So he's in and around our squad, and he's probably got a lot of friends in the week, and then his team's coming up against his friends. It's a very weird one, isn't it? For sure.
To be fair, that probably would make even more sense, in terms of like loan players in general don't play against their parent club, but like that makes even more sense if he's training with said parent club.
Yeah,
like you can't exactly be training with your mates and then immediately go and play them like the next day.
It's crazy, right? But yeah, look, I think obviously we'll do predictions later on, but it's no spoiler for me to say that I'm expecting Oldham to win that game, and I think I've got good reason for that as well. Obviously, Reedy being the big miss, but also Oldham, cup competitions aside, just focusing on league form, we are like really, really strong now, and we're getting stronger. And like I just said, the top three, if they really wanna, if they've really got the metal and want to go for the title, they have to be putting teams like the teams are playing away. And the same has to be said about Oldham this weekend. You know, no disrespect to Wealdstone, they're going on a fantastic run, but if Oldham are serious about challenging for the title, we have to be beating Wealdstone comfortably, don't we?
Yeah.
But yeah, so before we go on a little review of the game of the week and Loz's game of the week from the last time we recorded, do you have any others as you're looking down this list now of any other games that are sticking out to you? Oh, I think I might have lost Lauren. Hopefully, she will come back any second, or if not, I will have to continue. Is she back? I think she might be back.
I'm
Okay,
back.
she's back. She's back. I was beginning to panic then because I did a crossover to Lauren and her face just froze. But I don't know whether you heard what I said. But I said before we get into the tie of the weekend and Lozzie's game of the week for last week, do you have any other fixtures as you're looking down the list now that stick out for you for any varying degree of reason?
Not particularly. So, as we've mentioned, we've got 3 big ties of top versus bottom, pretty much. It's quite nice how that's sort of lined up. There's lots of top versus bottom. And obviously you've got we've talked about the Sutton game. I mean, if there's any others that might be worth mentioning, you've got, I mean, it pretty much is a top versus bottom kind of week. You've got the Gateshead versus Woking as well, which is another sort of playoff versus in battle of relegation area. I mean, and obviously I know that they are above the line, but they're still not. They're not ages away, are they? They're only 1 point out of it. Yeah, I don't think there's any that are particularly sort of like impressive out of the other ones that we've talked about, but it's fun how it's lined up, that it's lots of top versus bottom.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think the ones that we've picked out are the main ones to keep an eye on. But if we've learned anything about covering this division for nearly 2 years, every game in the National League has drama in it. So keep your eye on everything if you can do this weekend. But before we assign the fixtures for this week, shall we have a little bit of a callback and look at the Lozzie's game of the week and tie of the week for the last time we did a league preview show?
Let's do it. So that obviously was 2 weeks ago now. So it's a little while ago. And we seem to pick them, don't we? I mean, the week before, our games literally got postponed. Because of the storm that was happening at the time. Yeah, it managed to be that Loz's game of the week was postponed and the tie of the week were postponed. Then last week, the tie of the week and the game of the week both ended up 0-0. Right? I hate to say it. If you forget what our ties were, we had Ebbsfleet versus Boston, bottom of the league. Obviously, we thought that would be a really good game, given it literally is a battle for survival. And we thought whoever won that game might put themselves in a better stance of getting out of the relegation. Given neither of them won, kind of says everything that you need to know about that game, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I expected it to be a draw, to be fair. I expected that the teams would basically battle it out to so hard that it kind of didn't exist anymore and that they weren't going to win in the end. And then
it's an interesting one, that though, because like you just said, I don't think a draw aided either side, if I'm being honest. Yeah. And I don't really understand the game. I mean, I didn't watch the game, so I can only talk from my viewpoints of how I see it. The game plan of both managers seems a little bit poor to me, because surely if you're going to draw, you say to your men that look, we need the win here. If we're gonna draw, I'd rather it be 6-6, and we both had a goal rather than it be 0-0 and nobody's really budging, right?
Yeah, I think especially because we were like a point actually doesn't help either of them. They're Ebbsfleet are on 9, right? To get out of the relegation zone, they need to get another 11. 1 point didn't help them in any way, unfortunately. And I just think that, yeah, I mean, Boston as well, the 3 points would have meant that they would now be on 17, which is a lot closer to 20 than 15 is. I know, like, mathematically it's 2 more, but that's only 1 game. That's only 1 win, right? Whereas now they have to get 2 big results. I just think it's not a great result for them, really, unfortunately. So yeah, that ended up being a 0-0. So what a tie of the week we chose. But Loz's game of the week was Hartlepool versus Barnet, and that also ended 0-0. Classic, of course it did. And to be fair, the whole of the podcast, I remember saying I would not be surprised if Hartlepool come away with some points here. Although I didn't predict them to in the end. You did. You predicted them to get all 3 points. But we ended up with a 0-0. And I'm not surprised that Hartlepool came away with some points from this game, or a singular point from that game. But yeah, it was another one of those that was just a bit like naff. I mean, if I was to say one team looked better than the other, it would be Barnet. I mean, they got the ball in the back of the net, but it ended up being discounted because of a foul on the keeper. I think we've both watched this foul, right? And it's quite.
I was gonna say, I think this one. It depends. It depends what sort of how you view the game. I think it's in terms of how you view the rules of the game, because it's soft. Don't get me wrong. I mean, from speaking to you, I think you thought it was probably a little bit unfair, weren't it, on Barnet for it to be ruled out. But the one thing I will say is keepers get the ultimate protection in these sort of situations, and the Barnet play did kind of back into the keeper, so it's soft, and maybe the keeper could have made more of an attempt to play the ball, but I understand why the ref come to the decision in the end.
Yeah, I think you can see why. I think it is quite a soft one. Whether it's completely unfair, probably not. I do think if it probably happened to another player in the box, then I don't know if it would be called a foul in the box, but it's the keeper and he's got an important part to play, and I get it. But that was pretty much it. I mean, Barnet had the better chances in the game, and obviously did get the ball in the back of the net. But overall, it was kind of a bit of a meh game. There wasn't loads to write home about. And yeah, I mean, people could question the foul, but I would probably say it was all right to give it. So I'm not going to give the ref any slack, any sort of, flack for this game. I think that he did a decent enough job.
I agree.
For a national league ref, I think he did all right. As much as some people might be up in arms over it, but it was a soft foul. But I probably would say it is a foul.
Yeah, I agree. Just before we go to a signing game, something that we missed off, I think it's important to say that there's no gap between the top two now in terms of points. Both York and Barnet are currently sat on 44 points, and it is York on top of the tree, courtesy of 6 better goals on 24 goal difference. Barnet are on 18, but I guess you could say the team on the better form, or the two teams on the better form than York in this 3-horse race at the minute, are both Barnet and Forest Green, because York have actually lost 2 in 6, and are probably quite lucky to still maintain that top spot. But obviously they've had a wonderful season that hasn't taken nothing away. But I think that might be the first time this season that it's only goal difference that is stopping a team from stopping us having a new leader in the National League, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, if you look at it as well, Forest Green have got a game in hand, which would take them on top. It's still so tight at the top. It's so
And then,
tight at the top.
just because I like to keep reminding people that I do think that Oldham are still in the race. Oldham do have 2 games in hand. So yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Although if you won both, you wouldn't go top. So
no, but we'd only be a point off the top, and then we play York on Boxing Day. So it's on. I'm telling you, it's on like Donkey Kong.
Okay.
But enough of that now. Enough of personal preferences. So let me assign you a game of the week, Loz, first of all, and I am going to assign you. I will give you. I'll give you the Sutton game, I think, just because of
Sutton.
how tight they are in the league. Are you happy with that?
Very happy with that. It should be a good game, that one.
And then in terms of a joint tie of the week, have you got any that you are thinking about?
I mean, I think it's, I don't know, maybe one of the top v bottom ones. I mean, to be fair, I'd be tempted to put Tamworth York purely because York have got the worst form out the top 3, and Tamworth out of the bottom ones, I would back to cause an upset. But whether there's one that you would prefer as our joint tie of the week is up to you.
I'm happy to go with Tamworth, to be fair. Let's keep shining a light on the good work that they're doing in this division. So just to recap, what are the two ties for next week?
Okay, so the tie of the week, that's our joint game that we think will be very interesting, is Tamworth versus York. And Loz's game of the week, that's the one that I do my very brief run through on, is going to be the Sutton game.
Amazing. And with that being said, we are halfway through the podcast now. So it is time for you guys to hear from our wonderful partners at Audible. And this is where you guys, our wonderful listeners and viewers, can get yourself an absolute banging deal from Audible. If you like audiobooks and books in general, then Jamie Johnson, our friend from League One Lowdown, is here to tell you more.
This podcast is in association with Audible, and they bring you a fantastic offer, 99p for 3 months of their subscription. And for that, you also get a £10 voucher to spend on whatever book you want to listen to. It could be Richard Osman's Murder Mysteries, it could be Harry Potter, it could be the heaps of football autobiographies they have on Audible as well. And for 3 months, for 99p, you get 3 months of their service. Terms and conditions do apply, and you can find those below in the description.
Thank you very much for that, Jamie. Now, last week, if you did listen to our Q&A, me and Lauren give a really poor answer of a nice little segue I tried to do from the break. So this week, I'm not going to try any fancy stuff, and we're just going to get straight into your favourite part of the episode and our favourite part of the week, and that is predictions. Now, Lauren mentioned last week very briefly on the Q&A that she was happy because you were you a point behind when we last left it, Lauren. But do you want to talk to us about how things are lying currently, and then we'll get on to this week's predictions?
Yes, so everyone knows that Aaron was giving it a bit of the big one, weren't you? Back in the day, a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, you were like, "Oh, Lauren, you may as well just get the tattoo now." which, if you don't know, if this is the first time you're listening to us, feel free to listen back to our previous podcasts. We are very personable. You might like it. You might like listening to us. If not, that's a shame. But we enjoy giving you guys the National League updates. But yeah, Aaron was certainly giving it the big one. Well, he's managed to lose like every week the past few weeks. Quite a few weeks, weren't you? The gap was way over 30. I can now confirm to you that after an absolutely smashing week from me, I beat him 12-5. I've managed to bring the prediction league into 1 whole point gap. So our current cumulative scores are 146, 147. So I'm still losing, guys. I am still losing, but by a singular point, which I'm feeling much happier about than the 30-point gap.
Listen, if I bottle this, it'll just be like Stockport in the playoffs a couple of seasons ago, right? So yeah. Maybe I'm trying to be relatable to you and give you that sort of that core memory. That's what I'm trying to do.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's really sweet of you.
For those that can't see the video right now, if looks could kill, I would be dead in my chair right now. So while I am scared for my life, shall we get ahead to predicting this week, Lauren? And considering you've put the pressure on me and I'm shaking a little bit, can I please go first?
Yeah, go on then.
Amazing. So it's your boys Aldershot versus Halifax is the first one that we're doing. And you know what? I'm going to go bold early. I'm going to go the shots to pick up maybe potentially an unlikely 3 points. 2-1 to the shots.
2-1 to the shots. I like it.
Sutton. I'm going to go 1 apiece.
Fence sitter.
Nice.
Barnet,
Ebbsfleet. I'm not going to say that there is a interim manager bounce here, unfortunately, for the Fleet. But I would be happy to lose the points and be proven wrong because it would be an ace to see. But I'm going to go a very, very strong, convincing 5-1 Barnet win.
5-1. Oh, brutal.
Dagenham and Redbridge, Rochdale. I am going to go for a 2-1 Dale away win.
Nice.
Fylde, Eastleigh. I am also going to echo your sentiment from earlier in the podcast and say that Fylde will win this game 2-0.
2-0.
Gateshead, Woking, I will say 1 apiece. Maidenhead, Solihull Moors. I think I've been impressed with Solihull Moors sort of recapturing their form in the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to give the win to Callum's boys, and I'm going to say they're going to win 3-1 away from home.
3-1. Nice away win.
Oldham versus Wealdstone. I'm going to say a 2-1 Oldham home win.
Nice. Always.
Southend versus Hartlepool. I'm going to say 2-1 away win to Hartlepool. I like my away wins today, don't I, Lauren?
You do indeed.
Tamworth versus York. Now, as much as I would want to see it, and the long throw can cause carnage, we've seen it already this season. I think York will come out of this unscathed, and it'll be a 3-0 away win for York.
That's a big one.
Yeovil, Braintree. I'm going to go 3-1 to Yeovil Town. And
nice.
Forest Green 4, Boston United 0.
4-0. You've gone some big scores there. I'm liking it.
you know, you've got me sweating when I'm trying to work out like goal differentials and give myself big gaps to pick up points here, you know?
Yeah. Now, I could play tactically, but I'm not going to. So, Aldershot, Halifax. Now, I feel like every time I back the shots, they don't do well for me. And every time I go against them, they also don't go well for me. It's like they just don't tend to want to play ball, really. So I'm going to go against Alty, I think. Not Alty. I think I'm going to go against the shot. I think every time I say that they're going to win, they lose. So I'm going to say Halifax are going to win. And I'm going to give them I'm going to reverse the score. So I'm going to give it a 2-1 away win for Halifax. The Alty Sutton game, I see what you've gone for. I see a draw. I'm going to give Sutton the win here, I think. I know it would be nice and more exciting if Alty were going to win, but I'm going to give Sutton the win, and I'm going to say they're going to win 2-0. So I'm very much enjoying the away win at the moment. Barnet, Ebbsfleet. I hate to say that I agree that Barnet are just going to slightly thrash Ebbsfleet. I think unless there could be something really cool come out of this, I just think that Ebbsfleet are they're not on the same level, unfortunately. So I'm going to give Barnet just a 3-0 win. Just a 3-0 win. But they are going to win. Daggers, Rochdale. I'm going to back the Daggers, you know. I'm going to back them. Why not? Let's change it up a bit. Rochdale are currently.
I think we need to do a podcast at the end of the season for you to explain to the viewers and listeners where your love affairs have come for Aldershot and Dagenham and Redbridge.
I don't have a love affair with them. I have no affiliation with any club at all in this league. There's just something about them. I don't know.
You've done it for like a season and a half now.
I know.
You did this all of last season as well.
I know, but I'm thinking Rochdale have gone loss, win, loss, win, loss, win. So it's time for a loss, you know?
Fair enough.
It's a pattern. I like patterns. So the Daggers.
As you can tell by your jumper.
Thanks. For the audio listeners, they have no idea what you're on about. But anyway. That's cracked you up, that, hasn't it?
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry,
right.
I just couldn't resist.
Daggers are going to win 2-0 against the Dale. Why not? Why not? Fylde, Eastleigh. I think they're going to share the points here. I think Fylde are going to put on a good show. I think Eastleigh are going to put on not as good of a show as their position compared to Fylde should suggest. And I think that they're going to share the points 2-2. Couple of goals in there. Why not? Gateshead, Woking. I think Gateshead are going to win this. I think they're going to win 2-0. Why not? Why not? Maidenhead, Solihull. I would agree with you. I think Solihull are they're really impressing me this season, and I know they've got 2 losses. Well, their past 6 don't look brilliant, right? Don't get me wrong, they don't look brilliant, but the way that they've been playing, I've been really liking it. And Maidenhead just continue to struggle at the moment, and as much as that is horrible, and I don't like seeing them struggle, I look, in the last 6, they've lost 5 of them and won 1, and I don't see that changing. So I'm going to give Solihull. Right, let's try and change it up from yours. I'm going to go 3-0 instead. Nice. Why not? 3-0. I don't think Maidenhead are going to get a goal. Oldham, Wealdstone. Now, a part of me doesn't want Oldham to win, purely because, it's the podcast rivalry. But also, I think we've spoken in this podcast about the fact that I think Wealdstone might struggle with Alex Reid. And even though he might have boosted them up in general, I think that, look, they drew with him in the team and him scoring 2. I think they might struggle in this game without him, without his presence in the pitch. So as much as it pains me to say, I think Oldham are going to win.
Nice.
You know what? I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to call it a 2-1. Unfortunately. Southend, Hartlepool. I'm going to give this a draw. You know, I'm going to give it a draw, and it's going to be a 1-1 draw. That game. Tamworth and York. I'm gonna put down the upset. Now, are they gonna upset enough to win? That's the question. I don't think so. But and now everyone's going to accuse me of hating York. I do not hate York at all, I promise. I just think it would be an interesting score if Tamworth managed to get a point from this game. I promise I don't hate York.
York fans, feel free to come for Lauren on Twitter.
They come for me on Twitter already. Like, the amount of times I've been told she just hates York. I don't hate York at all. I think it's a great team. But it would be a great result, like, just for the, you know, vibes of the season, to have a bit of an upset in there. And I'm going to say it's going to be a 1-1, right? I think York are going to score early on, right? This is my prediction for the game. It's going to be so wrong. But York are going to score early on in the game. And then they're going to sort of...
Oh, early.
Like, first 10 minutes.
Okay.
Then they're kind of try and go for the second, but it just isn't happening. But they're kind of feeling okay because they're going to be in control over the pitch. They're going to feel good about it. And then, like, 87, Tamworth sneak the equaliser. And it's going to come against the play of the game. And it's going to be like from some sort of dead ball.
Throw in, most likely with Tamworth.
It's going to be a throw in, right? And then that's how it's going to happen. And they're going to get it in the 87th minute, and then York are going to be all shaken up, and they're going to get the last kick of the ball, and they're just going to scoot it just wide of the goal, and it's going to end 1-1.
I hear Gary Lineker's job at matchday is up for grabs. Maybe you should go for that.
The fact that that's the tie of the week, so I'm actually going to talk about that game next week, and we'll see how close my prediction is. Maybe I should write down somewhere my prediction for the game, and we'll see how close I got. Right, anyway, back to my predictions, given I've not actually finished them yet. Yeovil Braintree, I'm going to say that Yeovil are going to win this. I wish I could say something different, but just Braintree are still struggling, aren't they? And I'm going to say 2-1 to Yeovil. And then finally, Forest Green, Boston. I don't think it's going to be as big of a thrashing as you gave them, but I just don't see anything other than Forest getting all 3 points here. And I'm going to give them 2-0. Why not? And that's all of the predictions.
Give us a top to bottom, side to side then, Lauren, to finish it off.
Okay. In our Matchday 22 predictions for our prediction league. In the Aldershot versus Halifax game, I've gone 2-1 Halifax, you've gone 2-1 Aldershot. Nice. Alty versus Sutton, I've gone 2-0 to Sutton, you've gone 1-1. I was going to say 2, but that's not 2. They're sharing the points there. Barnet versus Ebbsfleet. We've both gone for Barnet getting all 3 points. I've gone 3-0. You've gone 5-1. You've gone for a proper thrashing there. Daggers versus Rochdale. So Dagenham and Redbridge have, I've said, are going to win 2-0. You've said that the Dale are going to get the win with 2-1. Fylde versus Eastleigh. I've gone for a 2-2 draw. You've gone for 2-0 to Fylde. Gateshead versus Woking. I've gone for 2-0 to Gateshead. You've gone to 1-1 just sharing the points. Maidenhead versus Solihull. We've both gone for a Solihull win here. I've gone for a clean sheet, though. I've gone 3-0. You've gone 3-1. Oldham versus Wealdstone. We both agree that Oldham are going to win 2-1. Southend versus Hartlepool. I've gone for a 1-1 draw, whilst you've gone for Hartlepool getting the points with a 2-1 win away. Tamworth versus York. I've gone for a bit of an upset with a 1-1 draw. You've gone a nice convincing 3-0 win to York. Yeovil versus Braintree. We've both gone for Yeovil winning. I've gone 2-1. You've gone 3-1. And finally, in the 5:30 game, Forest Green versus Boston. I've gone 2-0 to Forest Green. You've gone 4-0 to Forest Green.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hopefully, by the time we come back together next Thursday, I've stretched that lead out and you've not completely overturned it, because I will never hear the end of this. By the way, look at that smile on that girl. And that is when she's 1 point behind. Imagine what's going to come my way if she overspins it.
Look, I'm going to try and not be too sort of precocious if I do go ahead.
You don't know how to be nice about things, you are.
I'm lovely. I'm very nice. Look, it's just you. It's just you that I'd sort of take the mick out of, Aaron. I'm so nice to everyone else, I promise. It's just we've got that rivalry. You've got to have a little bit of fighting talk, you know.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, you don't want to hear our domestics on the podcast. So I think that is the perfect place to park the Matchday 22 preview show. Me and Christopher should be back together hopefully on Monday for a review show again, because it's league action. I can't see any reason why we don't do one, so you should hopefully get double episodes this week. We apologise for the lack of episodes last week, but it was just the way everything fell. Lauren, unless you've got anything else?
Don't think so, except from that I'm excited for the next week of the National League.
Amazing. So without further ado, we've been the National League Natter, and we'll see you again soon.